All right, first question is, Jesus calls us to love, but in the Gospels, it seemed like a lot of times he was pretty stern with people.
Yeah.
How do we balance the command to love with the need to also be stern and tell the truth?
Yeah, I wrote a devotional for, I partner with a couple other senior pastors to minister to young senior pastors, and I wrote a whole devotional on how do you have a strong personality in a community of love, right? So how does real loving look? Because here's the thing, whenever we think about being loving, we tend to accidentally put in the word nice. Nice and loving are not always the same thing. As a matter of fact, we use phrases like tough love as if that's a different thing. That's actually just love. Love means that you are doing the right thing for the person and for those around you. So the love command that God gives us is that we're supposed to love like he loves, right? The way that God loves is called agape. It means what is best for the other person, not for you. That's what love means. That's why everyone uses phrases like love is an action, love is a verb, love is something that you do, because you're actively blessing someone else. Sometimes a stern correction is the right thing. Not only that, but sometimes a stern correction to one is loving for another, right? So for example, if you ever analyze who Jesus was strict or stern toward, you'll tend to find out it was the religious establishment. It was people that were unnecessarily harming those under their covering. So, for example, he would be really harsh with the Pharisees. It wasn't because the Pharisees didn't care about God. Their whole life was designed around God. It's they had allowed distortion to come in, and they were adding unnecessary rules, so much so that it was starting to pull people away from God just to follow the rules. And that legalism was tearing people apart. That is not okay with Jesus. So he came in and put up a big block. Woe to you Pharisees, you're vipers, you're snakes. I mean, he just starts drilling them, because the most loving thing to do was to protect the sheep, even though it was going to cause the Pharisees harm. The other thing that you'll notice is that he treats those inside the church and outside the church differently. Still loving, but different things apply. For example, he wouldn't talk with a lot of the tax collectors and sinners necessarily about their sin, because this is where the church gets it wrong. When you are not saved, the last concern that you have is your behavior, right? Everyone always tries to tell the world, I can't believe you're doing that. Why would you say that? They're being consistent with their nature, right? And then you start, if somebody is literally going to hell and you're harassing them for a behavior, just as silly. So what Jesus does is he digs in and starts doing bigger work and demonstrates the heart of God and love towards tax collectors and sinners, but to the religious who are supposed to know better. He holds them to a greater accountability. So the way that God operates is those who know more are held more accountable. It's why teachers are held to a higher standard, because they should know better. The reason Jesus was very harsh on Israel is they were supposed to know better. They have had thousands of years of God pouring into them through prophets and direct revelation and leadership and kings and all these amazing priests, and they were still not having it. So what they needed was a swift swat on the rear end. What they needed was a re-rack of hey, guys, you got it wrong. You missed it. Sorry, we're not doing that. That was the most loving, not just for them, but it was for their nation. So any thoughts on that?
No, I think that's good. I want to go back to what you said at the beginning, which is the idea of love and niceness sort of being equated. Now, there's significant overlap. More often than not, when you are loving, you will be nice, and when you are nice, you are loving. But there is a place for, quote unquote, tougher love. Now, addressing questions like this is always so difficult, because there are some of us that want to show tough love to people we have no business showing tough love to, because they're like, I don't care what you think. You violate my boundaries and you show no respect for me. So, give me a break. And there are others of us that are so soft and squishy that we let people persist in things that are damaging to them, even just out of a desire to be nice. So, you're right about Jesus. Obviously, he was most harsh with those who were harsh towards others, those who knew better or should have known better, certainly. And I think it's important for us to recognize in your family, perhaps in your workplace, or if you're in a position of authority, that correction, that even loving rebuke, that the opportunity to show someone how they can get better, or even show someone how things that they're doing are causing harm to themselves or others, that there can be love in that. Now, each of us have to be careful to check our own motives. Am I getting involved in someone's life that's none of my business? Am I doing this under the guise of love, but really it's about me and about asserting power and authority and things like that? So we have to be careful with that sort of thing. But sometimes the most unloving thing, one of the most unloving things we can do is just sort of be nice when the situation warrants maybe a harder conversation.
Yeah, let me just add one piece to that. Is it nice to let someone continue on a path of destruction, right? So, for example, you have Jesus who has, it literally says he has compassion in his heart and really loved the rich young ruler. Do you remember that? Where the guy comes up to him, he's like, "What must I do to be saved?" The verse has these words of compassion. Jesus' heart really loved that guy. And he said, all right, then if you really need to break through here and be with me, you need to sell everything you have and give it to the poor. Now, he didn't say that to other people. He said it to that guy. Why? Because that was that guy's block. And so he was like, you got to get through that. And it says the man left totally sad. And you can go, well, that wasn't very nice, Jesus. Or was it? In my opinion, that was the nicest thing he could have done, which was, because if he would have just played nice and let the guy go on in his ignorance, he would have continued to walk away from God. He literally said to him, man, we're really close to salvation here. I need you to do a breakthrough. I need you to give me your heart. I need you to surrender. That actually is the nicest thing he could have done. So.